Hands where I can see 'em. The voice was sharp, cold, echoing off brick buildings on a quiet street in Charleston, South Carolina. A police cruiser's red and blue lights flickered against the windows of a closed diner, and in their glow stood a black woman in full U.S. Army camouflage. Her name tag read Carter. Her posture was flawless boots planted chin level. And yet she stood cuffed like a criminal while two cops circled her like predators that smelled weakness. Officer Rick Dalton gripped her arm hard enough to leave bruises, his breath sour with coffee. His partner, Officer Kyle Mercer, chuckled behind mirrored sunglasses, even though the sun had set hours ago. "What did you do, sweetheart? Steal this uniform from a real soldier," Mercer sneered, parading around like you earned those stripes. "Cute." Carter didn't flinch. She didn't answer. Her silence was like a wall, and it made them angrier. Dalton shoved her against the hood of their cruiser, the metal cold through her jacket. Phones were out now, people filming from the sidewalk, but no one stepped in. A woman whispered, "She's military," but her voice barely carried. Dalton leaned close to Carter's ear. "You don't belong here. Not in my city, not in this uniform." Still nothing, just her eyes steady, unblinking, fixed ahead. Inside, though, Carter's heart wasn't racing from fear. It was from memory. She was back in Kandahar, crouched behind a crumbling wall, as bullets sliced through the air. 40 men had followed her orders that night, black, white, Latino, Asian, and every one of them went home alive because of her. She had faced death. She'd led missions that never made the news. And now here she was being humiliated by two men who thought their badge made them kings. Dalton shoved her again hard enough for her to stumble. "Answer me, soldier," he spat. She finally spoke, her voice low, cutting through the tension like a blade. "Take your hands off me." The laughter stopped. The crowd shifted. Dalton smirked, trying to cover his unease. "What was that?" "I said," she repeated calmly, locking eyes with him. "Take your hands off me." Dalton's jaw clenched. He grabbed her harder, his ego stung. "You don't give me orders. I'm the law here. And I," she said evenly, "am the law you swore to respect." A flicker of doubt passed over his face, but Mercer broke it with a mocking laugh. "She thinks she's somebody. Let's take her in, teach her a lesson." They shoved her into the back of the cruiser, slammed the door, and drove her through the city's streets like a trophy. Inside the precinct, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead and the smell of burnt coffee and sweat heavy in the air. Dalton paraded her through the front desk like she was a suspect. "Got ourselves a fraud," he announced to anyone listening. "Claims she's military." You believe that Carter kept walking, boots clicking against the tile floor. Not a single word. She wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of breaking her. They shoved her into a holding room, slammed the door, and left her in silence. She closed her eyes for half a second, inhaling slow, steady. They thought she was powerless. They thought she was just another black woman they could throw around without consequence. What they didn't know was that she was Major Alana Carter, recently appointed as the Army's liaison to the Charleston Police Department, the very person sent to investigate misconduct like this. And in 5 minutes, the police chief himself would walk through that door, expecting to meet her. Outside, Dalton leaned against the front desk, laughing with Mercer. "Imagine the look on her face when we charge her for impersonating an officer," Mercer said. "She'll never wear that uniform again." "Damn right," Dalton replied, "going to strip that pride right out of her." But then the air shifted. The chatter in the precinct faded to whispers. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. Every officer straightened as Chief Jonathan Reeves, a towering man with silver hair and a chest full of medals, strode in. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He walked straight past Dalton and Mercer, straight into the holding room. And then it happened, the sound of silence breaking like glass. Reeves stopped in front of Carter, his eyes widening just slightly, and then he raised his hand in a crisp salute. "Major Carter," he said, his voice carrying through the room. "Welcome. I apologize for this reception." The precinct froze. Dalton's coffee slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. Mercer's smirk vanished. Carter returned the salute with perfect precision, then gave a single nod. Reeves turned his expression like steel. "Who cuffed my commander?" No one answered. "Who mocked a decorated veteran in the streets of my city?" His voice climbed sharp and cold. "Chief, we thought," Mercer started, but Reeves slammed his fist on the desk so hard the papers jumped. "You thought wrong." Dalton stepped forward, sweat beading at his temple. Sir, she didn't identify herself. She looked suspicious. Suspicious Reeves cut him off. She was wearing her name and her rank and her country's flag across her chest. The only thing suspicious here is the disease rotting your judgment. Dalton swallowed hard. Mercer's hands fidgeted at his belt. Reeves pointed at them like a general giving orders. Badges, guns, belts. Now. The gas that rippled through the room was loud enough to hear outside. Dalton's face turned pale. Chief, you can't. I said now, Mercer tried to laugh. Sir, it's a misunderstanding. You didn't need to know who she was. Reeves growled. You only needed to know what she was: a citizen, a soldier, a human being. And you failed. The two men slowly, reluctantly removed their badges, their guns, their belts, and placed them on the desk. The sound of metal hitting wood was deafening. Carter finally spoke, stepping forward, her voice calm but sharp as a knife. When you put those cuffs on me, you thought you were putting me in my place. She stopped inches from Dalton's face, her eyes steady. But my place is where leadership, sacrifice, and honor live. And yours, she glanced at Mercer, is gone. Neither man said a word. Internal affairs agents arrived minutes later, expressionless, escorting the disgraced officers out in front of their peers. The silence of their exit was heavier than any words Reeves could have said. Carter rubbed her wrists where the cuffs had dug deep, then turned to the rookie who had unlocked them. He looked ashamed. Ma'am, I'm sorry, he whispered. Learn from this, she said softly. Don't let fear or prejudice make you blind. As the room shifted, Carter's mind flashed back to her first day at Fort Benning 10 years ago. She was the only black woman in her platoon. The drill sergeant barked in her face. Every man doubted her. Every obstacle was heavier, harder. But none of it broke her. Growing up, she'd seen cops like Dalton and Mercer dismiss kids who looked like her as trouble before they even spoke. She swore back then that no one would ever erase her worth again. Back in the present, Chief Reeves turned to the entire precinct. His voice was calm now, but each word landed like a hammer. You will all remember this day. You will remember that racism has no place in this badge. If you wear this uniform, you wear it with integrity or not at all. No one dared speak. Some officers lowered their heads, shame coloring their faces. When Carter stepped outside, the same crowd that had watched her humiliation was still there. But this time they weren't silent. Applause erupted. People shouted her name. Some cried. She didn't wave. She didn't smile for cameras. She just walked forward, chin high, shoulders back, carrying herself like the soldier she was. Near the curb, a young black girl stood clutching her father's hand. Her eyes were wide, shining. Daddy, she looks like me. Carter stopped. She crouched down so they were eye level. Don't ever let anyone tell you where you don't belong, she said softly. You walk into every room like you already earned it, because you have. The girl nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. Carter gave her a small smile, then stood again and walked into the city, the crowd parting around her like she was untouchable. That night, alone in her apartment, Carter wrote one line in her journal. The uniform doesn't give me worth. I give the uniform worth. She closed the book, turned off the light, and prepared for the battles still ahead. By morning, the videos were everywhere. Millions had seen her humiliation and her grace in the face of it. The city's police department scrambled to save face, and Dalton and Mercer's names were plastered across headlines as examples of everything broken. Carter didn't need revenge. She had something better proof. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever watched someone in power abuse their authority? Have you ever felt invisible until you stood up and showed them who you really were? Drop your stories in the comments, because that's how things change. One story, one voice, one moment at a time.